Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic, how to build an organizational culture from the very scratch. Our facilitator for tonight is not a stranger to this platform. He's one of our very own, and he has graced this platform multiple times, yet we get fresh insights each time he comes around. His name is Oluwafemi Aluko, and I would like to just read his profile very briefly. Oluwafemi Aluko is a performance and learning advisor within the InterSwitch Group, a globally certified HR professional, and brings over 5 years of experience and expertise. His core mission is to provide comprehensive and enjoyable training and development support to professionals across all tiers of the organization. His proficiency spans a range of vital domains, including needs assessment, curriculum design, e-learning platforms, adult learning principles, program evaluation, performance management, and also culture management. He has orchestrated impactful virtual and classroom trainings. Oluwafemi is also the lead at Career Hack, where he steers individuals towards a future they envision. He holds employability bootcamp and HR bootcamp for young graduates and those looking to switch careers, which he does for free with his team. He's an ambassador of dynamic learning experience, and he steers individuals towards their goals through strategic thinking, innovative approaches, and a heart dedicated to fostering growth. Is always seeking to make impactful impacts. Ladies and gentlemen, with my privilege and pleasure, I'm excited to bring to the virtual podium, speaking to us on how to build an organizational culture from the scratch, Oluwafemi Aluko. You have the floor. Oluwafemi Aluko, you need to unmute. Hello, Femi. We can't hear you if you're speaking.
Thank you very much, Mr. Niemi, for the privilege to speak on this platform. And I'm contributing to my fellow professionals here this evening. Technical glitch. Thank you so much for joining the session tonight. The privilege to speak to everyone here. And I believe that this session is going to be interesting and engaging for us. Let me just say before we go on that we'll be doing this session together, right? So I'll be needing your contributions as time goes on. You can just drop your points in the chat. We can unmute, you can raise your hand as well, unmute, and then I'll call you to make a contribution. Right? So the topic we're looking at tonight is how to build an organizational culture from the scratch. Now, let me start by saying that one of the major things that organizations need to pay attention to is their culture, right? As much as strategy is important, right, culture is also very important. Because if you have a very good strategy and your culture is bad, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. Now, one of those things that we need to take note of, right, as HR professionals, is the very cogent point that culture affects your bottom line. And I'm going to say that again. Culture affects your bottom line. When you have a bad culture, let me quickly say this, that an organization cannot exist where there's no culture. It is not possible. So if you do not create a culture deliberately, you can be sure that a culture exists. You can't have a culture. So it's either you create it or the culture creates it. And I'm going to get into all that. But I was making the point to say that, you see, culture impacts your bottom line. This is to say that culture can impact performance. I think I'll just explain as the time goes on so that I don't get ahead of myself. So when we say culture, what exactly comes and beliefs of a particular group of people at a particular time? I'm going to say that again because there's a point that we need to take note of. Culture means the general customs and beliefs of a particular group of people at a particular time. This means that you can have a culture today, and in the next 6 months, your culture can change. So culture is also relative to time. Now, it is also to say that culture is the general customs. Now, when you talk about custom, you talk about the practice that exists in a place. Because you see, you can have in paper, you can say this is what our culture is on paper. But see, in practice, what is playing out could be different. So you also need to be able to measure, and we're going to talk about that tonight. So you also need to be able to measure what in practice. There are also two different things. But let's go on. We're going to get to all that. Now, you see, culture is a word that talks about the way of life of groups of people, the behavior. How do you behave in your organization? The behavior, the beliefs. What do you believe in your organization? These are the things that forms your culture, your beliefs, your values, your symbols that they accept, right? Generally, without thinking about them, and are passed along by communication and imitation from one generation to the next generation. Now, again, this is the culture on a generic sense. So let's dive deeper into when we talk about organizational culture. What are we talking about? So organizational culture has to do with the set of values, beliefs, attitudes. Now, when we talk about attitudes, you're talking about behaviors, right? Attitudes, systems. When you're talking about systems, you're talking about procedures that exist in your organization, right? Are you seeing the things that, trickle into your culture now? I'm going to quickly go over that again. Your values, what are the things that you hold there as an organization? Your values, your beliefs, what are the things you believe? You believe, your attitude, systems, the rules that guide your organizations, that outline and influence employee behavior within an organization. So let me give an example as we go on. If, for example, your organization, you say that everybody resumes at 8 a.m., right? And you're meant to close by 5 p.m. That is what is passed on. That is what is your policy. When offer letter is sent, that is what you have in your offer letter. But you see, what is in practice could be different. You can actually have employees resuming by 7 a.m. and leaving by 4 p.m. That could be the culture in that organization. And let me say something to you. Even though you've written something on paper, when you have a new hire resume, they are going to follow the trend of what is going on in that organization, notwithstanding what is on paper. But let's proceed. Company culture is everything that defines your organization, from its set of company values, vision statement, to leadership behavior and expectations. Let me take that again. Company values. What are your values? Now, I'm hammering that because these are the structures upon which you build the culture of the organization. So what are the things you hold there? What are your values? What is your vision statement? What is your leadership behavior? What are your expectations? Let me quickly cite an example as we go on. There's an organization where the CEO resumes by 6 a.m. or by 7 a.m., like I was saying earlier, and by 4 p.m., the CEO leaves, closes for work. What began to happen in that organization is that, you see, by 7 a.m., the office is full with staff. Everybody's there. and they started working. You are not seeing anybody gisting. If they want to gist, all of those things started by maybe 6:30. So by 7 a.m., everybody's on 6, they're working already. You see, by 4 p.m., the CEO leaves the organization. And I tell you, by 4:05, you will not see anybody on their seat again. This is how leadership behavior can influence the organizational culture. If you have a workplace where the leaders there, and really, right, the leaders there maybe scream at the staff, you are going to see things like bullying play out in the organization. But you have a workplace where the leadership there rewards good work in a good way, in a good manner. They commend good work. You're going to see, an organization where employees put in their best effort, and not because they are trying to do eye service. It's because they can see the value of what they are delivering. They can see that their work is appreciated. So you see, your company value, your vision statement, what are you trying to achieve? What have you communicated that you're trying to achieve? You see, many times we have the vision statement in our website. You, in fact, have it in the wall in your office. But if you ask your employee, what is the vision of this organization? Many employees do not actually know. You see, there's a difference between having an idea and not being able to say it word for word. Many employees don't even have an idea of what the vision of the organization is. I tell you, how are they then able to drive the strategy? How are they able to, plow along what the organization is trying to achieve? Like I said earlier, leadership behavior and expectations. Do you expect your employees to, at any cost whatsoever, get the job done? If that is your expectation, then that also will tell you the kind of culture you are going to have. Do you have empathy in your organization? Or is it, I don't care, you do it. I don't care if you work on Saturday or Sunday, get the job done. If that is what exists, you're already building the culture of your organization. Now, look at the last line on the slide. If you look at it, it says, an exceptional company culture makes all employees feel they belong and inspire them to perform excellent work on a daily basis. Belonging. So that's another thing about company culture. Do you give your employees a sense of belonging? Do they have a sense of belonging? When they talk, and let me tell you how you measure that. Okay, let me not jump ahead of myself. When your employees talk, do they say things like, that is what they want? That is what management are doing? Or do they have a sense of, that is what we are doing? This is what we want to do. Yeah, by those kind of words, you're already saying, do they have a sense of belonging here? Do they think they have a say? Let me say this to us that, you see, when your employees do not have a sense of belonging, or when you have a poor culture in your organization, one of the things you are going to see is your employees will quite quit. This means that they will be disengaged and they will begin to leave. But let me add something to that. You see, you can have an healthy culture in your organization, but certain teams or departments can be toxic or have bad culture. Let me say that again. Your organization itself could have an healthy culture. But you see, it could be a team, it could be a department, it could be a unit that has a bad culture. This is why one of those things we're going to look at tonight is, how do you measure the kind of culture that exists in your organization? What are the metrics of measurement? How can you actually determine what kind of culture that exists? Let's proceed. Smart organizations focus on cultural elements that inspire and matter to team members, like employee recognition. So it's a short question. In your organization at the moment, do you actually recognize your employee efforts? Really? As an HR professional, is your effort recognized? Because you see, many times HR professionals champion these things. You are in that space where you can recommend the changes. You can recommend to your boss, you can recommend and say, I think we need to make, based on these things and these things, based on this data and that data, I think we should actually do a culture refresh. I think we should make this, I think we should have an employee recognition, a policy that recognizes employees' contribution. Inclusive work environment. You know, it baffles me, and these are conversations that HR professionals need to have, because these things also impact in our culture. And again, yeah, it's up for conversation that when in recruitment, right? When you're recruiting, and let's say one of your applicants is a woman and she's pregnant. I know these are sensitive matters, and these are things we really need to look at because it's impacting to our culture. And she's pregnant. And because of that, many organizations would say, we can't recruit her because in the next 3 months, she says she wants to go on maternity leave. But the question should be, when this person comes back from maternity leave, will they actually deliver? Can they get this job done? If I really want this person on board, is it possible that I get a stopper or someone that can fill that gap before this person is able to resume? So do you have an inclusive work environment, or do you have an environment that segregates? These are the practicalities of culture. When you have these things in place, you're actually going to reap the rewards as an organization. But you see, when organizations let culture slide, what you just want is the results. What you want is, are we meeting, the targets? Are we meeting the figures? If that is what you want, what you are building already is a toxic workplace. And you see, it is going to lead to your employees being disengaged and quite quitting in the organization. Now, I want us to look at this case study, and then we're going to have a short conversation on this quickly before we begin to go into the meat of the matter. Let's look at this case study. It says ABC Corp is a multinational company operating in the tech sector with offices in various countries. The company prides itself on its commitment to diversity and inclusion. They pride themselves in their commitment towards diversity and inclusion. However, recent employee surveys have revealed dissatisfaction among some employees regarding actual implementation of these values in the workplace. Remember, what they pride themselves with is diversity and inclusion. When employees are complaining, right, that these values are not being implemented. Now, below are some of the issues identified. What the conversation we're going to have quickly is, how do we resolve these issues? I want you to give advice. Let's assume you are a consultant that's been given this one. How would you actually handle this? These are some of the issues. Perception versus reality. While the company promotes itself as an inclusive workplace, employees feel that certain groups are favored over others in terms of opportunities for advancement and recognition. That's one. Number two, communication breakdown. There's a lack of clarity in communication regarding the company's diversity and inclusion initiatives. Employees are unsure about what steps the company is taking to foster inclusivity and how they can contribute to it. The last issue that's been recognized is cultural sensitivity. Some employees from different cultural backgrounds feel that their perspectives and values are not adequately understood or respected by majority culture within the organization. Now, how do you advise, right, that this issue is resolved? You can drop your comments in the chat, right? Before we go on, I'll just like to take about 2 comments, right? And then we'll move on because of time. So if you'd like to respond, you can just drop it in the chat quickly. I will take 1 or 2 comments and then we'll move on. I hope the comments coming in time. If not, I mean, just have to go ahead. But then I would love comments just 1 or 2 before we go on, how would you advise that this is resolved? How is the company pride aiming? They are saying, no, this is not actually happening, but it is leading to a number of issues, right? So what would you advise? All right, so while we look forward to the comments coming in, I'm just going to go on. You can always come back to discuss it. All right, while I wait for that. Now, I want you to look at this. It says, every business has a culture, whether it was intentionally designed or shaped accidentally. You know, I said this when we started. Every business has a culture. In your workplace, there's a culture. Either you've taken time to build it from the scratch, right? Or you did nothing about it. A culture exists in the organization. These are top elements of exceptional company cultures. Top elements to look at, top elements to pay attention to when we're talking about company matters. Number one is appreciation. How employees are appreciated. Is there a recognition program for the employees? When you look at your top performers, are they being appreciated? One of those things that some organizations do is an award night. It doesn't cost you anything, right? If you put together, you know, some plagues, maybe a little bit here and there of a little bit of cash, and reward your staff. You can also have to up the values of the organization, reward them. When you reward such employees, right, that's one of the things that you are using to say your employees, we reward employees, we appreciate employees from Abiodun to management and line managers to improve their communication. Thank you. Transparency, truthfulness, and timely communication. Also, line manager to give rooms for their subordinates to contribute. Thank you so much for this contribution. This is, you know, so awesome, right? Transparency, very important. Communicate. We have said we're going to do this. This is how we plan to implement. Be transparent in what is going on. If certain persons feel that, you know, they are being sidelined, maybe you actually need to do a survey to get, you know, what is their perception regarding this particular value. What is their perception? What are employees saying about it? Right? It's very important for you to get their contribution. That way you secure their buying and they can tell you how they want these things to be done. Is it my network? Can we hear me? Can I get feedback, please?
It's breaking. It's going on and off, but you can continue.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, so the next thing here, when it comes to top elements of exceptional company culture, is alignment. How aligned is your organization? Are there things that would not follow and nobody would address them? You know, because these things happen in the organization. Maybe because that particular person is friends with the CEO, or for one reason or the other, there is misalignment in the organization. I tell you, you are going to begin to have issues with your culture. Okay, so I can see comments saying it's breaking. So please give me a minute. Let me quickly address that. Please just a minute. Let me address about alignment. Right? I was talking about alignment. I was talking about alignment. One of those things that is very important to ensure in our organization is that we are in alignment. This is what the strategy is. This is what the value is. This is what we are pursuing. It's important that everybody lives up to that. If you have people who will not follow that strategy, you have people who will not follow what has been communicated, And nothing is done about it. You're already building a culture of misalignment. People will be employees begin to. So you see, this is why we need to communicate. Organizations, we have policies, we don't communicate. We have policies that when people act against them, we do nothing about it. Already building your culture. Again, we're talking about how to build your culture from scratch. Next thing is belonging. Does your staff, your employees, do they have a sense of belonging? And I was saying this, that you're going to know if they have a sense of belonging from the way they talk, from their contributions, the contributions they make in meetings, right? And a sense of So a good way to give your employees a sense of belonging is allow a level of autonomy. You know, many of the things we need to, and I'm going to talk about when it comes to leadership, is that you see many of our managers micromanage, and you see this impacts employee experience. One of the essence of having a positive and healthy work culture is that your employees do not have a sense of being micromanaged. They should have a sense of autonomy. When you give them that, they begin to have a sense of belonging. This is very important. Allow them to carry the organization on their head. This is important. I'm going to go to the next point, which is on trust. Trust. You know, a question was asked, right? And again, is in both ways. Do I trust my manager? And again, you should ask yourself that question as the HR professional. Do I trust my manager? Does my manager trust me? These are the things that enters into organizational culture. Do I trust my manager? And you see, one of the ways you are going to know is this, right? Many managers say that, and in fact, CEOs of organizations say, unless my employees come in physically, they are not working. That actually communicates a lack of trust, right? We should give employees a sense of trust. And how do we do that? Allow them, if possible, put in measures to allow them work from anywhere. At least let them do hybrid, really, right? Give them projects and let them undo it. Not that, you know, everything that they have to do, you know, you have to watch them from, you have to watch every little thing that they have to do. Give them a sense of trust. Allow them, give them that sense of trust. I'll go to the next one so I don't stay on that for too long. The next is leadership. The next is leadership, right? Top element for exceptional company culture, leadership. How are my leaders? Again, are my leaders trained to be able to manage appropriately? One of the things we should actually, you know, let our leaders understand is that leaders are not just here to get the job done alone. Leaders are also here to build the next set of leaders. That is something very important. So, do my employees feel supported? Do managers, do leaders in your organization, do they give your the other employees, they give them that support that they require to grow in their role, right? And also to get the job done. So you see, your leadership is important when it comes to your company culture. Are we communicating appropriately in the organization? Is communication being done well? This thing comes to leadership. You know, funny conversations that happened in the last, you know, this last break that happened, right? When federal government had declared, you know, 2 days break and then additional 1 day. Many HR professionals found it difficult to go back to their boss, go back to their CEO to say, now there's an additional break. Because you see, that freedom to have that communication is not there. These are cultural matters. So it simply says that you see in the organization, you are not free to be expressing. One of those things you realize is that once employees have a sense that they cannot express themselves, they can't share ideas as they should, they begin to look for organizations to help them do that, organizations that allow them do that. So you see, your leadership is important. And I'll make that point I made earlier, I'll make it again. It's the sense that you see in many organizations, we feel that when certain leaders do some things, they can go scot-free with them. But when certain others do them, they cannot. You hold them by the book. You see, you're already building your culture that way. Your culture is being built. It simply means that if I can gain the favor of someone, then, that's a culture of favoritism you are building. Remember one of those things we said, if you don't build your culture deliberately, it will build itself. Your organization cannot exist in a culture vacuum. It can't. Let's go on. Now, we're going to look at what a toxic culture is and what a healthy culture is. Please let me know that you can still hear me, right? You can just drop it in the chat. So I just know that you can still hear me. We're going to look at what a toxic culture is. All right, thank you, sir. And what a healthy culture is. Now, if you look at a toxic culture, so as we are speaking, I want you to evaluate it yourself and begin to ask yourself, do I have a healthy culture or do I have a toxic culture in my organization? Now, you see, do we experience unethical behaviors? People just come in as they want, they come in anytime they want. Employees speak against, management anyhow. Policies are acted against as they want. Unethical behaviors. When you have that playing out, you need to know that you're already having a toxic workplace. A lack of inclusion. I've said these things before. When certain class of employees feel left out, you'll be shocked. And you see, this is not so good, especially for us as HR professionals. That the organizations that operate at an ethnic level. So, which means that if you're of this tribe, you'll be favored. If you're not of this tribe, you are going to experience this and that. That's not the best. That's a toxic workplace. The organizations that reward certain genders more than other genders. You see, it's so shocking to know that the organizations that say that if you're a lady, if you're a woman, you cannot, step into, this realm when it comes to leadership. There's a research that's presently going on with LBS, right? And one of those things that's been said is that when they come in an entry, when employees come in an entry level and they are growing, right, you see that everybody is going together. But at a certain point of leadership, it seems like you're having more men than women. We need to know what is going on. Is it that deliberately we are sidelining certain genders? See, if that is what we're already building a culture that is favoring a gender more than another one. Do we have a culture of disrespect? People can talk to the other one anyhow. Managers can look down on their direct report and just talk to them anyhow. Listen, let me say this to you. If you have that playing out, it's important. If you don't have a policy on that, you need to actually create a policy and communicate it. Don't just communicate, ensure that you stand by it. You should have a policy where everybody is respected, no matter the cadre. A manager should not be pulling a direct report or should be speaking against a direct report. And you see, you also need to understand, and it was shocking to come to know this, that you see, there are also direct reports that are bullying their line managers. Can you imagine that? But it happens, right? So you see, this is where, you need to communicate those things and ensure that you stand by them. When you have those things happening, that's a toxic workplace that's already been built. Antagonistic, right? Potentially abusive. Working relationships develop and cause good employees to disengage from their work and even leave the organization. So you see, when you have a toxic workplace, what you're going to have is that employees will leave. And I said when we started, let me repeat it. The organization, you may necessarily not have a toxic organization, but you can have a department that is toxic. You can have a unit that is toxic. If that is what exists, then you need to pay attention to that particular department or unit. Now let's look at the LD or positive workplace. This is a workplace that fosters trust and collaboration among employees. I was in a certain webinar or so, and they were sharing. And one of those things that was said in that webinar is that in certain organizations, the CEO, right? I believe it to be a one-man business now. The CEO loves it when employees are not in agreement. All right, can you just imagine that? They prefer when employees are in disagreement. Nobody is agreeing with themselves, right? That's what they prefer, because they feel that way they can, get the work done better, because I can call you and tell you things about that's a toxic workplace being built there. And HR professionals, really, we shouldn't keep quiet. It's not to rebel, it's to say, how can I make this place better? Let this be my contribution, that employees come to work. Because, like I usually say, that we spend many hours, right, many days of our life in the office, in our work. Even if you work remotely, you spend a large chunk of your lifetime at work. So you see, the best we can do is ensure that people enjoy coming to work. So that when tomorrow is Monday, your employee is already thinking, oh my God, what do I go experience in the office tomorrow? All right? So you see, it should foster trust and collaboration among employees, managers, and leaders. In a healthy workplace, people feel safe to speak up. You should be in a meeting where an employee can raise their hand and say, sir, I hear what you say, but I think we can do this way and we'll achieve a result. It's okay to be able to disagree in a meeting regarding a particular thing. It is. This is one of the ways you know that this is a healthy workplace for building. So people, they feel safe to speak up. They can share ideas. They don't have a sense of, if I share an idea now, somebody will steal my idea and use it to shine, right? But you see, they are free to share ideas. They are free to give feedback without fear of retaliation or judgment, right? Can the employees are they free to share feedback? And they are not afraid, right? They are not afraid of retaliation or judgment. Will I get judged, right? They support each other. They learn from each other. They celebrate each other's success. These things are how you know they are building a toxic workplace or an healthy workplace when it comes to culture. Now, let's quickly look at it. We're going to use certain metrics, and then we use that to differentiate. And as you're doing this, I want you to carry out an audit, right? Now, as I'm speaking, again, you can please feel free to drop comments in the chat, right? If you want to make addition, some of the things I'm saying, feel free, drop comments in the chat. As I see them, we'll just go back to them and go through them, right? So we're going to use certain metrics to differentiate between a toxic culture and an healthy culture. So you can do an audit as we do this. When it comes to communication, in a toxic culture, communication is often poor. Employees feel left out of important decisions and information not being shared openly. Employees feel left out. All they get is the result of decisions that are made. They don't have any say in decisions being made, right? In a healthy culture values open communication. Employees feel heard and respected. Line managers should be able to enter into the office and throw out a question and say, we're experiencing this. How do you think we can solve it? And people can share. Your CEO can call meeting and say, how do you think we can solve this problem? You can enter the office and say, this is going on. I think we can do it this way. Open communication. This is important. When your employees feel heard and respected. When it comes to leadership, a toxic culture characterized by poor leadership, with managers who are authoritarian. It has to be my way. See, let's be sincere with ourselves. This happens in a lot of organizations. right? It is sometimes we shy away from them. I will say, it's normal and all of that. You see, the truth is the organizations where this does not exist. That's the truth, right? So it is to say, how do I go from where I am to where I want to? So managers are authoritarian. We have to do it this way. If the line report is bringing up an idea, they say, no, it has to be my way. Micromanagers, they play favorites, right? Say, this is the person that has to be promoted. This one cannot be promoted. Is there a data to back that up? There's no data. It's just because I like this one. All right? That's a toxic workplace. In a healthy workplace, managers are supportive. They inspire. They lead by example. They are not people that say, do as I say, don't do as I do. Okay? A healthy workplace is a do as I do. Really. So managers are supportive. If there's a task that is given, you should provide support to the employee. If they come to you to say, this place, I think I'm not, you should be able to supply resources that are needed, not to say, go and get it done anyway. Next is recognition. In a toxic workplace, they often fail to recognize the contributions of employees, leading to low morale and dissatisfaction. I know someone can be saying, in this economy, how can we recognize? See, recognition does not necessarily need to cost you, right? You enter some places, some restaurants, and then you see things like employee of the month, you see employee of the quarter, you see employee of the year. You can do maybe a yearly kind of thing. You can reward the employees for their contribution. You see, in a toxic workplace, there's no contribution. Just get the work done and go. You hear people saying that that's why I'm paying you, is to do the job. Yes, but you see, when you see that someone is making exceptional contributions, you should reward that. You see, in an healthy culture, they value and reward the efforts of employees, creating a sense of appreciation and motivation. You see, you'll be shocked to say that in certain organizations, thank you is a very scarce word, right? Maybe you have someone to do something and they send the document. If they are duty to do, yes, but you can still say thank you. Actually, that goes a long way, really. Workload. Employees are often overloaded with work, leading to burnout and stress, right? So you've given an employee task to do. You gave them the task by 5 p.m. on Friday, close of business, and you are saying you need to deliver by 8 a.m. Monday. How? What you are simply saying is that you're expecting them not to have a weekend. Now, let me share this quickly. You see, if an employee wants to work on weekends, which is not bad, but it should be by their discretion, or you are ready to pay for overtime. Except you sign an agreement where they are meant to work on weekends. That is the point where you can then hold them to it to say you need to work on weekends. But if what you've signed with them is a Monday to Friday, if what we signed with them is a 9 to 5, please, it's important that you are there to that. It's important. If they decide to work on weekends, it should be by their discretion. We should not force employees to do that. If you do that, you will cause employees to be disengaged. Employee engagement will be low. There's still a lot to cover, so I'm just going to run, right? I'm going to run. An healthy work culture recognizes the importance of work-life balance and provides employees with resources and supporting them to manage their workload effectively. Do you see that? Support is essential. Support is very essential. Please, it's important that we communicate this to our organization. We need to support our employees, provide support for them. Yes, you've given them the task. If they need further support, please provide. Send them resources. Let's make the workplace habitable. This is essential. Growth and development. You see, in a toxic workplace, employees feel stagnant. They lack opportunities for growth and development. Because in actual fact, nobody cares. It's not about get the work done. It's just get the work done. How you do it, I don't care. If you're growing, I don't want to know. How you are feeling at home, I don't want to know. You see, we need to normalize them. How is your family doing? You are trying to talk into their family, but it gives you some sense of empathy. Maybe some tasks you will send to them, you will not. If you have an idea what is going on with them, don't just say, I don't care, you get it done, just get it done. No. Provide, support when it comes to growth. Is there a career path for your employees? Have you created a career path for them? Is there maybe there is a policy, right, or a structure for job rotation? That's a way for employees to learn, right? You can send them on training. Let's go on. In an healthy work culture, it values continuous learning and provides opportunities for employees to develop their skills and advance their careers. What are some of the benefits of an healthy culture? Some of the benefits. Let's run through it. Number one is greater overall employee engagement. You see that your employees are more engaged. They will be the ones to bring initiatives. They will be the ones to say, can we do it this way? Can we do that way? Right? Increase productivity. You will see that when it comes to performance, you don't need to run after them. They are getting the job done. Why? Because you have a culture that is healthy. They want to come to work. Next is higher job satisfaction. Employees are satisfied with their work. Improve employees' health and wellness. Now, you see, one of the things that makes employees visit the hospital a lot of their life is burnout. Burnout. Because of workload. So you see, or because of what they experience at work. So you see, it improves employees' health and wellness when we have an healthy work culture. Reduce absenteeism and attrition. People don't just leave the organization anyhow. People don't, today they call in sick, tomorrow they call in sick. High levels of innovation, like I said before, ideas are coming up. And lastly, increased customer satisfaction. You see, when your employees are treated well, I tell you, your customers will be treated well. Gone are the days when we say customer is king. In our days, it's actually employee is king. When you treat your employees well, they will in turn treat customers well. Let's quickly look at some tips to improve your company culture. Before we, dive deeper, look at some tips to improve your company culture. Number one, and please, it's important to notice this. Create opportunities for employees to connect during their day-to-day. Employees should not be strange to themselves. I don't even know who this person is. I remember, Mr. Leandri was sharing with us about one of the initiatives he did in one of his workplaces. They had like a game day, sort of, right? A game day, everybody came out. And then you saw that people that nobody wanted to greet, nobody wanted to say hi to, right? Because they played games together. You saw that, they began to open up to themselves much more. So create opportunities for employees to connect during their day-to-day. Maybe you can create more like a cafeteria where employees can sit and eat. They can do that, they can meet together, they can have conversations. Give employees the opportunity for professional development and career advancement. I already said this, so we move on. Promote transparency at the organization and leadership level. Transparency. How do you promote transparency? By communicating. Let employees know what is going on. Let the CEO once in a while have town hall with the employees. Let him, listen to their grievances and have conversations with them on it. This is what is going on. We want this to be done better. And then let him address pressing issues. Implement employee recognition program. Are we doing this already? These are the ways you build your company culture. This is it. Are you implementing an employee recognition program? Do you have that in place? Foster an inclusive environment. I already talked about this. Give employees flexibility in how, when, and where they work. All right? When it comes to flexible work, see, the truth is, employees don't necessarily have to run a 9 to 5. Actually, you can do what is called flexi work mode, right? If they can come in earlier, as long as they meet their timeline. All right? You can come in by 7 and leave earlier, leave by 3. You can come in by 10 and maybe leave by 6. You can give your employees that opportunity to determine how they get to work. Hybrid work mode. See, again, before you say you want to do an hybrid work mode, it's important that you put in the structure that supports it, please. So that you don't then complain to say that this thing is not working. If you put in the right procedures in place, the right policies in place, you communicate it, you train your employees on it, it will work. Remote work is something else you can actually consider as well. Provide employees with autonomy. We already said this. See, let us not micromanage employees. Allow them have some levels of decision making. This is important. Seek out ongoing employee feedback. Now, let me ask quickly, and I want you to throw this in the chat. Please throw this in the chat. When was the last time you had an employee survey? When was the last time you had a survey in your organization to get feedback from employees? Can you put that in the chat quickly? Let's just quickly take that poll. Put that in the chat. When was the last time in your organization that you had a survey to get feedback from the employees? When was the last time? Can we put that in the chat so that, let's just get a feel of what we have. Last month, last 3 months, last year, 2 years ago, we've not even done before. I'm waiting for the feedback, please. All right, I'll just go on while the feedback is coming in. I'll appreciate the feedback, please. So great employee wellness programs and prioritize mental health. HMO is one of those things that you can encourage employees to do. Thank you, Zolian. I can see that says Q1, right? Great. November last year. All right. March. Thank you. Toby says March. Tomiwa says last month. Great. All right. So it's important that we do this on a periodic basis. You can do it every quarter, right? Because some of these things could actually demand, time, could demand money to do. Right. I can see that. Thank you. Pedro says not done it before. Do you see that now? So for you, that could be something you're looking into doing. Get feedback from your employees. Thank you. Abimbola says December 2023. Great. Right. But you can also have it in your calendar. Right. Create, a calendar. You can have an HR calendar to say every quarter we're going to throw out a feedback, a survey to get feedback from our employees. Great. Jumoke says October, we're having another this month. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right. So employee wellness programs and prioritize mental health. This is important. The employees' mental health. You can these things already on your HMO. It's just for you to communicate. See, please, this is important. Let me say this quickly. Right? HMO come and speak to the employees on the things they can. I don't have access to these things. So okay. All right. So we said some of these things are already. Can we hear me, please? I want to just be sure so that I can go on.
Please.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. Some of these things are already in our HMO. You can invite them to come and speak. Have a day where they communicate to the employees the things they can enjoy, the things that they have access to already. Some of them have gym, or they have gym in the HMO, but your employees don't know. They have access to, a counselor they can talk to. They could be having issues at home. All of these things can contribute to the way they come to the office and react, which will impact in the culture. Next is invest in diversity and inclusion. We touched on this already. Allow employees to select rewards that are meaningful to them. I can't say this enough. Let me tell you, one of those things you can do is to see what in the things you're paying employees, maybe that they don't get, that don't enter into their pockets. What are some of those things that you can convert to cash for them? That increases how much they are getting, they're taking home. Can you also give them pay options, right? Maybe you can take this option of payment, or you can take this option of payment. These are things you can research in. It may not even cost you more. It just take you researching and allowing them enjoy it. I said this before, it's just to buttress the point. Culture impacts your bottom line. In case you do not know, culture impacts your bottom line because it impacts your employees' performance, so it impacts your bottom line. Okay, great. Let me respond to that. So business, what are some of the things you can monetize? So some organizations have car insurance, right? And you see, your employees, some of them do not even have cash, do not have car. So those things, maybe you're even paying it already. You can take that and pay it to them, let them get it. All right? Maybe 13-month allowance that you give them at the end of the year. You can start giving that to them every month. Break it down and give it to them every month, instead of waiting for the end of the year to give that to them. Right? These are some of the things you can actually convert. Let me give you another one. And again, these are, conversations that you can have with them. You don't need to force it down their throats. Have those conversations with them. You see, the truth is, some of our employees are married to people who already has HMO that gives access to their spouses. All right. For example, I have an HMO, and then my wife can use off my HMO. In my wife's workplace as well, they have HMO. You see, for my wife, she may not necessarily need to use her HMO because she's already a dependent on my own HMO. Can you then have the conversation with the HMO to say, this employee does not need the HMO. Can we convert it to cash for her? So that she then takes that home. It enters, into her account. These are conversations you can have. Again, to say, let's go on now. I hope I answered your question, Toby. Let's just move on. Culture impacts your bottom line. It impacts performance, and so it also impacts your bottom line. All right, moving on. Let's look at 6 components of a great corporate culture. 6 components of a great corporate culture. Please pay attention to this. Again, these are the 6 things that you pay attention to for you to be able to build that culture that you're envisaging. Remember, the topic is how to build organizational culture from the scratch. 6 things for you to pay attention to. These 6 things may even be existing already, but you need to pay attention to them and use that to build your company culture. The first is your vision. Do you have a vision in your organization? Many organizations already have their vision. What you now need to do is to communicate your vision to your staff. A great culture starts with a vision or mission statement, which provides it with its purpose. This is what we are running towards as an organization. For example, look at Microsoft vision here. Microsoft vision is to help people and businesses throughout the world realize their full potential. That vision drives them. We're going to get into, because as we move on, you're going to see it in the slide. We look at three organizations and what their culture looks like. All right, and you're going to see how Microsoft actually lives out this vision, lives out, their culture. So your vision, you need to communicate your vision and help your employees to live up to your vision. Support them. See, and one of those things we say as HR professionals is that strategy will, it's called culture we eat strategy for breakfast, something like that, right? Because you see, two of them has to be in alignment. It has to be in alignment. So your vision, that's important. Communicate it. What are your values? What are your values as an organization? Is it communicated to your employees? Next is your practices. Your practices are meant to be based on your value. So, for example, if you say that open communication is part of your values, then the way your office is structured should actually show open communication. Your offices should be built in a way that anybody can walk in and have conversations, because you said open communication. These are the things that determine your practices. If you have values and your practices don't show your values, then you're not getting it right yet. So you need to actually sit down. Tomorrow is Monday, right? Maybe you can have a meeting with your HR team and say, what's our mission? What's our vision? What are our values? Are we living up to our values? What can we do to ensure that we live up to our values? Are our values communicated? Do we reward employees that live up to our values the most? And then your practices, right? Let's move on. Your people. No company can build a coherent culture without people possess the willingness and ability to embrace those values. So you see, when you are hiring, ensure you hire people that are culture fit. But let me also say this, please. Don't just hire employees that are culture fit. Also hire employees that are culture add. Let me say that again. Don't just hire employees that are culture fit. Hire employees that are culture add. What does this mean? You are trying to work around your culture. When you see that there's a part of your culture that is lacking or that you need to work on, ensure that your next hire. So don't just hire for someone that can do the job alone. Hire for, does this person have this value in them? Right? And again, and thank you so much, Mr. Liemi. This evening we posted a set of questions on the page, right? So you can check the HR mentorship page. A set of questions that can help you hire right for culture. So if there's a culture that you're trying to work, a value you're trying to work around, you can find an employee that has that culture, right? And then bring them in and allow them influence their team, influence the organization with that particular value. So your people is very important. The next is narrative. Narrative. See, you need to be able to tell your story right. This is also important. You need to be able to tell your story right. What is the history behind our organization? This is why we do things the way we do them. Let me give you an example. Coca-Cola, for example, they have what is called a World of Coke Museum. It's in Atlanta. Do you know what it's about? The World of Coke Museum is where the history of Coca-Cola is displayed. You're going to see how they've evolved, even when it comes to Coca-Cola bottles. You're going to, when you go there, the different, I hope you know that Coca-Cola is not just the Nigerian Coke that you taste. The taste differs even across countries. All right? So you see, when you go to the World of Coke Museum, you have a taste of the different varieties of Coke. They tell their story, their unique story. Do you also have a unique story as well? These are the things that can also impact your culture. Let your employees understand the reason why these are our values, the reason why we need to behave this certain way. Let me quickly add, your culture does not just impact your employees alone. Your culture impacts your customers. I will not mention names, but I can say to you, and I know even many of us on this call are aware as well, the organizations that you will not want to hear. The stories you've heard their employees share, people that have left the place share, And you see, the way, like I said before, the way you treat your employees will determine how your customers are treated. So you see, culture doesn't just impact your employees, it also impacts your customers as well. The last part, when it comes to the 6 components of a great corporate culture, is place. See, location is important. When employees come to work, what is the experience? Is the experience, a rowdy environment? Is the experience, a place where everywhere is hot? Again, these things seem simple, but they matter a lot. You're already building culture this way. The dress sense, right? Is it a sense where everybody needs to put on their tie? It is not bad. That's the culture. But ensure that everybody lives up to it. Is it an hybrid workplace? Good. But you see, the place where the business happens also impacts into your culture. So you should ensure that even when it comes to the geographical space, when it comes to how the office looks, these things are important. Let's move on. Let's quickly look at this. Company culture at some organizations. We're going to look at 3 of them. I'll run through this quickly because of time, right? We'll look at Microsoft for a start. You see, this review is on Comparably. Comparably is where you can see reviews about major organizations. If you open Comparably, you can just search organization and then you see it. Another website like Comparably is Glassdoor, right? And again, you can go and search. This is something you should do. Go and search for your organization on Glassdoor. Glassdoor still speaks to Nigeria. And see, what are people saying about your organization? What are they saying about your CEO? And then look at how can you address this. Look at this. So these are what employees are saying about Microsoft. Great company, amazing work-life balance, excellent culture, excellent benefits, love it here, surrounded by brilliant minds. So you see that the people that you employ also matters. A company that really empowers every person and every organization to thrive. Do you see that? Been here for 14 years. Great company to work for with plenty of opportunities and great leadership. Are you saying that now? Very empathetic and supportive leaders and managers. Mission statement. Our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. I'm going to skip, look at their values: citizenship, trustworthy computing, innovation, diversity and inclusion, environment. So you see that one of the things that Microsoft does is community service. Microsoft does community service. And you're going to see that I want us to watch. Microsoft gives the employees certain hours of their work time, their work duration, to do community service. Can you see the way they are empowering? They are living up to their vision. Are you seeing that now? So can you see how practice is entering into value? That is culture for you. I want us to see this video quickly, and please, I would like you to tell me if you can see and can hear, right, what is being said once I play it.
I love the respect that comes with working for such a large company and the impact. I fixed a bug that impacted 100,000 customers, and I did it in seconds. And that's crazy. Nothing that I do touches that many people.
It doesn't matter really what product you're working on. If it's leaving the 4 walls of Microsoft, it's going to impact at least millions of people.
That motivation alone really changes your whole compass. Everyone is very supportive and everyone has a growth mindset and they want to learn more.
Microsoft supports you in developing yourself as an individual because they understand if as an individual you're developed, you'll end up only helping and bettering the company.
Managers really encourage you to get involved in other things outside of work, whether that's doing a hackathon or being part of the Give campaign, because it's such a big part of Microsoft's culture. One of the biggest passions I have is teaching younger students, specifically girls, that computer science can be a girl thing. It is awesome that Microsoft supports me using my work hours to teach these middle school girls.
I DJ both in Seattle and across the country on weekends. because I was able to share those different things with my manager and my teammates, now I'm DJing for events within the company, and my teammates are hiring me for their events.
We are encouraged to continue learning.
My team is okay that I'm gone every once in a while for diversity recruiting or a conference to learn and better myself.
I really love working at a company that has a mission statement that is so relatable.
We know that we want to empower every single human on this planet to do more.
A company that encourages diversity and inclusion, where I, being a woman, Latina in tech, feel 100% supported and encouraged to share my thoughts. It really makes the picture complete.
I wholeheartedly believe I'm making an impact in people's lives. There's not too many feelings in this world that make you feel better than that.
I'm just inspired every day. The culture itself is inspiring, the people around me are inspiring, and what the company allows us to do, both inside the office and out, makes me excited about the future of Microsoft.
All right, awesome. So in that video, we basically just saw employees sharing, sharing about the experience working at Microsoft, right? See the things that they said about the organization. The same thing for Google. Again, these are things you can check up online. I'll just focus on this because of time, right? Google is renowned for its innovative and open culture. Employees are encouraged to think creatively and explore new ideas, even if they fail. Now, let me quickly say this to you. That you see, many of the initiatives of Google that you see are initiatives that employees by themselves brought up. And those things have turned into major businesses for Google today. So can you see the essence of allowing employees to be able to contribute, creating that culture where employees are able to make reasonable contribution? The company's emphasizes on a relaxed and fun work environment with perks such as free meals and game rooms, fosters a sense of creativity and camaraderie among its workforce. Because of time, I'm just going to go on. Again, these are things that we can see. Another one is McKinsey and Company. We'll just proceed because of time. Now, how do you build a strong corporate culture in 5 steps? How do you build a strong corporate culture? When I say strong, we basically mean a healthy corporate culture. How do you do this? In 5 steps. The first is to accept that company culture matters. You'll be shocked that some people actually up to now do not believe that culture matters. If let's just let the organization just run. Let's just ensure we're meeting our targets, we're making the money. We need to first accept that company culture matters. Strong culture attracts top talent. See, before people accept offers now, they make research about the organization. So you see, if what you have is a toxic culture, right? What you have is people who, because they have no other option, they will come to the organization. But if you really want to contend for top talent, then you must ensure that you have a great and healthy culture. Positive culture improves retention rates. People would stay, they wouldn't leave you because they have a great culture where they are. Good company culture increases productivity. So first, accept company culture matters. 2, define and share the company's mission, values, and goals. Define it and share it. Don't assume that people know it. Define it and share it. You may need to have a culture refresh. Communicating again what the values are. You may need to have a company on the V goal. When I say values, I mean the core strategy, and then help your. A strong culture is built on its mission, vision, and goals. This should clearly communicate the company's purpose, guiding principles and expectations, while clearly defining short and long-term goals to motivate the employees. So you see, communication is important. Next is encourage healthy communication. Encourage feedback. feedback is important, right? You can do a 180 feedback, you can do a 360 feedback, but I encourage that if possible, please do a 360 feedback. What does that mean? 360 feedback simply means that the line manager, the manager provides feedback to the employee, and the employee itself is able to provide feedback to the manager. Colleagues can also provide feedback to themselves, right? This is important. Also ensure that you, foster interaction among employees, respect, conflict resolution. As HR professionals, we shouldn't be taking sides, right? Rather, what we should be going after is conflict resolution. Establish principles, create communication guidelines, train managers. I realized that organizations don't train managers. You see, the essence of promoting someone, yes, they can do the job, but don't assume that they can also lead people. Don't assume it. Leadership is a different skill entirely. So you need to do a leadership training for your managers. And this is not a one-off. This is something you should do periodically as well. Thank you very much, William. I can see William's comment here. He says, I noticed different workspaces that suit different personality styles. I saw a private, outdoor, and group workspace. Some people are more creative when they're in an outdoor space. Others are more creative in a place with less distractions. Others in a collaborative setting. Awesome. This is so right. This is so right, right? So if your organization can, you can also give people that option, right? That also fosters their creativity. I can say, thank you very much. Says, I agree on leadership. Because employees are performing well, they can automatically lead people. They can perform well, but oh my God, I just remembered something I saw online, a funny one, right? Where the guy went for an interview and then it's supposed to be a team lead. I'm sure many of us have said it. It's supposed to be a team lead. And then they said for team lead, they're going to pay him 70,000 naira for team lead. He said he's going to lead the people astray. I saw it, I laughed, right? But again, just to buttress the point that when you're promoting someone because they can do the job, please also ensure that they really have leadership skills. Train them. Let them, be able to, ensure that they have that skill to lead the people. Let's go to the next one. Next one says, prioritize mental well-being. I can see it chat quickly. Let me read that before I go on. Leadership is a skill to be taught. We treat it as a behavior to be taught. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, you can actually teach people leadership skills. You can. We should actually. Prioritize mental employee well-being. This is important. Let's ensure that we prioritize it. Invest in it, right? Flexible work schedule. This is important, right? Allow them go on leave. This is another conversation we need to have. Many employees, many organizations, CEOs of businesses and HR professionals feel that the employee that is working well is the one that is not going on leave, is one that closes work late. No. When you have such mindset, such beliefs, you're already creating a toxic workplace. Employees should be able to go on leave. Employees should be able to close at their appropriate time. The essence is for them to get the job done as when they should. Not you believing that until they close late, they are getting the job done. Until they work on weekends. Until they don't take any leave at all. No, it shouldn't work like that. Mental health support. We can also have webinars on these things. Right? Have webinars, bring in a mental health coach, right? Speak to them on this. Next is continuously monitor and nurture the culture. Don't say because we've put out the policy, we communicated one of it. No, you also need to continually monitor, right? You need to monitor, ensure that people are adhering to the values of the organization. You are fostering that positive work culture. We already talked about the manager training and recruitment. I'm going to say that again. Align recruitment practices with company values. That's important. Design robust onboarding process for new hires. Monitor employee engagement, conduct regular surveys for feedback, monitor competitors' corporate culture. This is something I should pay attention to. Do we conduct exit interviews? When we do we use them? Or when you take exit interviews, you know where your employees are going to study your competitors. How to detect what culture exists in the organization? How can you know the culture that exists in the organization? The first is by employee survey. Now you need to know what culture exists in the organization. The first is employee survey, and we have said this before. Should have periodic surveys, measure employee engagement, know what they're saying about your organization. Next is third-party culture measurement. You can use third parties to get this done. Like I know Deloitte does something like this. McLean does another, also does something like that. You can reach out to them to say, can you please carry out a culture check? I need to understand what is going on here. Focus groups, right? Then people across various departments, various teams, put them together and have interviews with them. Tell them we need to understand, your perception about the culture. Exit interviews are another means. I already said that. Organizational culture assessment instruments. That's called OCAI. I'm going to touch on that a bit as we go on. Business needs scorecard. That's another one. Behavioral observation skill. That's another one. Now, sample questions for employee surveys. These are, I put here 18 questions. You can basically Google them. I won't go through them because of time. You can basically Google them, right? Sample, what you can put in the survey you're training out. All right? So I'll just go on. So when you are doing focus group, for example, invite a cross-section of employees. Don't just take people from one department. Their contribution, their feedback could be biased. Organize as many focus groups as necessary, but keep them to a manageable size. Ask for stories and behaviors, not opinions or rumors. When you're having the focus group discussions, ensure that what you have are not rumors. Let it be stories, let it be behaviors that they've noticed. Maybe there's something something the CEO did that they think could be better. Next is practice empathetic listening. Pay attention to what they are saying. Let them know that you are really listening to what they are saying. Let the group know prior that you'll be recording. This is important as well. Thank each person after they've shared. Analyze the data for trends, patterns, and disparities. Develop action plans to improve your workplace culture. What will be the action plan after you've gotten the data? The next way for you to measure the culture that is in your organization is what is called organizational culture assessment instruments. Again, you need to research more on this. I'll just touch on this a bit, right? It's an instrument where, it's broken into 4 competent values, and then 100 points are allocated across that, all right? And then based on that, employees will fill a survey, right, to say that this is where we are at the moment, this is where we want to be. And then based on the feedback that they give, you then fall into either of these points. Either you fall into clan, adhocracy, hierarchy, or market. Again, these are things that you can basically research into. Organizational culture assessment instruments, OCAI. The next is business needs scorecard. I'm sure we are familiar with what is called the balance scorecard, right? Now, a business needs scorecard would now dive much more into the culture part of the business. And then it measures it across 3 basic areas: trust and engagement, direction and communication, supportive environment, right? So you have that sheet, and then when the employee feels and then they give you feedback, then you're able to understand based on the current culture, right, that the organization is, and then the desired culture that your employees feel that you should actually be in. Let's move on. Again, you can please research into these things. Now, behavioral observation scale is to measure behavior across the organization. Maybe you've noticed a team is talking. Maybe there's a particular person that seems there's a lot of complaints. You can carry out, a BOS, a behavioral observation scale over that person to understand, what are people actually saying about this particular employee, and then you're able to get your point. All right, so moving on. How can we reinforce our culture? Now you've been able to build your culture. How do you reinforce your culture? The first is to communicate the kind of culture you want to have. Please communicate it. HR professionals, communicate the culture you want to have. Have that meeting. You can have a town hall and have that conversation. Hire for culture fit and culture art. I already said this, so I'm going to move on. Align your culture with your strategy, right? Your culture should not be against your strategy. This is important. If your strategy is saying that we want to meet up with a particular, a particular value when it comes to targets, your culture shouldn't be saying employees should focus on themselves and not the organization. Just that's just an example. Ensure that there's a balance between your culture and your strategy. It's important. Next is adapt your culture to changes. Your culture can change, and I said this before, right? Because you see, the things that go on in your organization can change. So it's important that you adapt your culture to changes as well. Lead by example. Lead by examples. Let the leadership, let them lead that culture. Let them be the champions of the culture. Share the company values and expectations from day one to new hires. Communicate the values. And then create a reward and recognition program. Already mentioned this. Ensure that your your company's internal and external communication reflects your values. So this is a case study, but I'm just going to leave just because of time, and then I'm going to stop here, and then we can take contributions and questions. Thank you very much, everyone. Mr. Liam, over to you, sir. Mr. Liam, are you there, sir? All right, so if you have questions or you have contributions, I think you can raise your hand now, or you can unmute. You can also put it in the chat as well, so that we can get those comments. I'm reading through the comment box now, just to ensure that I didn't miss out on any of the comments that had come in initially. Okay, all right. I think no questions. Do you have questions or comments before we round up? Okay, so in the absence of any, all right, so I think we're going to wrap up here for tonight. Thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate you for your time. Thank
you so much, Oluwafemi Aluko. That was well done, well delivered, very rich and insightful. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night, everyone.